My dear brothers, today I would like to share with you one of the most important and perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of our life as a priest, as a religious, and that is about relationship. Why relationship is so important? Because after Vatican II, the maximum number of religious and priests left the religious life and their priestly life because of the relationship. And relationship would always remain a big challenge for every one of us. And because it would remain a big challenge, something which is very difficult, something which is very personal, something which is very relevant for each and every one of us, I would like to share with you today some aspects of relationship, particularly the type of relationship that we experience, that we have with the opposite gender. There are so many things, obviously, we can talk about. There are same gender relationship with children, relationship within the community building, and so many other aspects. But I would like to restrict and to share with you primarily on the process of relationship between a male and a female, a man and a woman. And this is the general process that people go through. Many of the things would be applicable in our relationship, but some things may not be applicable. But the many different points that I would be sharing with you would give us an understanding as to how best we can live our life. And there are 7 stages. There are 7 stages in our relationship. And the first stage in our relationship is before we actually enter into a relationship. And that is why it is known as a pre-relationship stage. And the fundamental question that we tend to ask is, what are some of the things which would be the reason for us to enter into a relationship? And obviously, the first and the most important thing why we want to enter into a relationship with another is because of attraction. And it can be a physical attraction. Most often, it is a physical attraction. And it can also be a sexual attraction. And according to psychologists, 85% of our relationship with someone of the opposite gender is because of the physical, sexual attraction towards the other. There can also be, in a very small way, emotional attraction, can be a spiritual attraction, which is maybe less than 1%. If we come across still people like St. Francis and St. Clare, who had a very spiritual attraction towards each other, or Blessed Jordan and Blessed Diana, and they had again a very spiritual attraction towards each other. There can also be attraction because of the talents and the skills that we find. So young formies, when they find somebody is very talented and gifted in music, in singing, in playing the organ, and others are attracted to them. So we do find attraction is one of the important reasons for starting off a relationship. Another important reason would be an interest. You begin to have a particular interest in the other, and that in course of time evolves into a relationship. Or a person is available for relationship. And because a person is available for relationship, you think of entering into a relationship because the person seems to be available. Or you come across a person who seems to be for you acceptable, that you find that both seem to be acceptable towards each other. And also, you find that there is a possibility of entering into a relationship. And these are some of the reasons why a person begins to think of entering into a relationship with another. But underlying all these would be an, an experience of fifth. And what is a fifth? A fifth is a funny internal feeling. When you meet someone of the opposite gender for the first time, you begin to feel a funny feeling towards that person, where all these elements of attraction, interest, and the possibility of entering into a relationship, they are all present. And when this funny internal feeling we experience, you cannot express that in words. It is too personal and it is too unique. And it is also very different from all the other experiences. So these would be some of the reasons for us to begin to feel that there is a possibility of entering into a relationship with the another, with the other. And the moment we begin to have these, then we begin to develop deep within ourselves great admiration for that person. We begin to admire, think very highly of that person. And not only we begin to think very highly of that person, but we also begin to appreciate. That means we begin to talk about that person with our close friends. We begin to appreciate that person in the company of our friends. So, what we admire, we begin to share with our friends. And then, in course of time, we not only think about and speak about, but we begin to be preoccupied, disturbed about that person. We are unable to focus on our study, on prayer, on organization, administration, because our mind is now disturbed about that particular person. And because of this preoccupation, there is a natural tendency within us to find out whether the way we are attracted to the person, whether the other person is also attracted to us. The way we are interested to find out whether the other person is also interested in us. And that is the play that we have, the hide and seek. Hide and seek is wanting to find out whether the other person is also equally interested in me. And once a person has found out that there is some sort of mutual attraction between each other, then there is the process of decision making. And the decision making is of two types because we are attracted to so many people. And so, some people, we make a decision to continue the relationship, and with many, many other people, we make a decision, no, I will not continue this relationship, and we stop the relationship then and there. But if we decide to continue the relationship, then we come to perhaps the most important aspect of a relationship, and that is the mindset. What is my mindset in my relationship with this particular person? And that mindset is so important because that mindset would be the foundation. And from that foundation, or on that foundation, we would begin to build the type of relationship that we would want to have with that person. And so there are so many different types of mindset. One type of mindset would be that we would decide with this person, I would have a very healthy relationship. And with another, we may decide that with this person, I would have an unhealthy relationship. Or with another, I would say, I want to have a very caring relationship. With another, a sharing relationship. With yet another, I want to have a very friendly relationship. With another, I would say, I want to have a very spiritual relationship. And with some another, we may say, well, with this person, I think I could have a physical relationship. Or you could even think of that with this person, the type of personality, the type of behavior of this person, and my own interest, I would want to have a sexual relationship with this person. Or with another, we may decide to have an abusive relationship. Or with yet another, we may decide to have a possessive. I like to possess this person. I want this person to be my friend, my special friend. And that person should not have any other friends except me. Or we may want to protect someone and enter into a protective relationship. Or with yet another, we may want to have a brother-sister relationship. I'd like to look at that person and relate with that person from the very beginning, like a sister to us. Or you enter into a relationship as an advisor, to advise, or to guide that person, or to support the person. So these are some of the different types of decisions that we make because that is our mindset for our relationship with that particular person. So we may have many friends, but with every friend that we have, we enter into different types of relationship. With some friends, we are able to laugh and joke and relax. With some other friends, we have very serious discussions. Why? Because of our mindset. The type of foundation that we have placed for the type of relationship that we want to have, on that we have built our relationship. And that is why the mindset is important. And if you really want to enter into a healthy relationship, then have a mindset which is a decision to enter into a healthy relationship, like a brother sister relationship, or a guiding or a protective relationship. It all depends upon how you perceive, how you look at that person, and how you make a decision, and what is your mindset, which is the foundation on which you build your relationship. Once you have made a decision to continue the relationship and have a foundation, a mindset, then there is an anxious preparation as to how you want to proceed in building up that relationship. And because you are anxious about proceeding, how to enter into and to carry on this relationship. So all these things happen as before we actually enter into a relationship. And that is why the first stage is known as a pre relationship stage. Then we come to the second stage. And the second stage is the stage in which we actually begin our relationship. And that is why it is known as the initial relationship stage. And the initial relationship stage, it starts with the introduction. And you know you have met each other, but now you want to somehow communicate to the other person that I like you, I'm interested in you, and I want you to be my friend. I want to enter into a special relationship with you. And that is the introduction. But most people would be very shy. Most people would be afraid, afraid of being rejected. And often, even though we may have prepared ourselves, but when the time comes, we may find it extremely difficult to communicate what we have prepared, what we have planned to share with the others, because we may become tongue-tied. However confident we may be in our life, but when it comes to building up a relationship, it's not always easy to communicate our feelings to the other. Fear of rejection, fear of being laughed at, fear that the other person may share with others, and our name and our good intention may be misunderstood. And that is why introduction is always difficult. And once we cross, or once we have communicated, introduced ourselves, then we begin to share. And sharing is like an inward spiral. And what is an inward spiral? Inward spiral is like a circle which begins bigger, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That means the first time when we begin to talk, communicate, and share, it will most likely be the weather forecast. Oh, seems to be a very warm weather. It's going to be very hot and humid. Or we say it is very cold. Yes, yes, I also feel it's very cold. So it's something very general. And then from general, we move slowly to particular. From being very impersonal, we begin to move to be very personal. And so, as we begin to talk and share, a time comes when we begin to talk very, very personal things. And that is the time we begin to feel we are very close to each other. And often people would ask, what do you tend to share with another? And certainly, the first thing that we share is the things that we like and the things that we don't like. That's the most common thing that we tend to share. And the second thing that we would tend to share with another, obviously, would be our own experiences of the past, events, incidents from the past, or memorable events in our life. So, some things which happened in our life. But most of the time, when we share about past events and experiences, almost always they are all good experiences that we share with the other. Then we also tend to share about the present state of life, how I am now. What are the challenges, difficulties, hopes, opportunities, joys, and all those things which are happening now. And then another thing that we tend to share is about our family, our future plans, our dreams, what I like to do, what I like to become, how I would like to live, what are my dreams and hopes in life. Lastly, we also tend to share about our family. The sign and indication that you have come close to a person is when you begin to share about your family to another. And as you begin to share, you also experience what is called a bond. There are three important bonds we would experience. The first bond we would experience is the bond of closeness. You become close to that person and you become very comfortable. You enjoy the company of that person. You like to spend some time with that person because you are in the process of becoming close to that person as you enjoy the company of that person. And it must be mutual. The bond of closeness is an enjoyment experienced by both. And because of this closeness, there are certain questions in your mind. And that is why you begin to have an ambivalence. And what is an ambivalence? You begin to feel a certain confusion whether I am sharing much more than I need to share with the other, whether I am too open with the other person. Am I becoming too transparent to the other person? And that is the time you come to the stage of evaluation. Evaluation is something which is done by every person, whether they are married people, unmarried people, whether they are religious, whether they are young people, whether they are old people, whether they are children. Every person evaluates relationship. But people who are matured or above 18, 20, or 15 and above, they would tend to evaluate much more seriously about their relationship. And there are 5 areas they would tend to evaluate. And the most important thing they would tend to evaluate is whether our relationship is based on trust or whether it is based on mistrust. And I believe the most important area of evaluation is trust. There is a famous film in, in Hindi. I, I forget the um, title of the, I think the Hindi film is called Man. And the theme sentence in that film is a beautiful saying, किसी का विश्वास जीतना आसान है, उस विश्वास को तोड़ना उससे भी आसान है, मगर उस विश्वास को निभाना बहुत कठिन है, बहुत मुश्किल है. To trust is easy. To break the trust is easier. But to carry on the responsibility of trust is most difficult. So, as long as there is trust, you carry on the relationship. On a day when you find there is no more trust, there is mistrust, that is the time you should give up the relationship. Particularly when you realize that you cannot trust this person, then the advice often given is don't try to build up a relationship which is based on mistrust, which can be very, very difficult to be changed into a trusting relationship. And the second area of evaluation is love. How much do I love this person? Whether there is love or there is lust. Again, we tend to evaluate between these two things. And love is divine and giving, while lust is animality in nature and wanting, while love is sacrificial and lust is for selfish reason and for pleasure. And while love is something which a person is ready to give and, and even to give totally for the other, while lust is physical in nature, sexual in nature. It is not in some ways spiritual in nature. And that is why the important aspect of wanting to find out in the relationship whether our relationship is based or built on love or on lust. And the third area of evaluation is how long it will last. Whether this is going to last for a short period of time or for a long period of time. And surely, if it is going to last for a long period of time, that is an indication. It's a very healthy relationship. I have a few very close friends with whom I studied in the school. And all these years, we continue to be good friends. So to have friendship for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and when you begin to feel that you are friends and the friendship has lasted for so many years, and that's the time you are remembering the famous sentence, count your blessings. And friendship is one of the great blessings God has given to us. And another area we evaluate is whether the person is serious about relationship or the person is just using me as long as the person is around. I remember a young parish priest who left after a few years. I met him and he said, one sentence, said, "Jo milta hai, wo chalta hai, or jab tak milta hai, tab tak chalta hai." Something which disturbed me because that person is never serious about relationship. And he left his priesthood because he entered into a relationship and then he realized that he made a very serious mistake and he left. And the last area where we tend to evaluate is whether there is the magic of relationship. And what is the meaning of the magic of relationship? The magic of relationship is whether we have the ideal of relationship, whether we experience the best of relationship. We are able to say, well, we are best of friends. We like each other. We have the same attitude, aptitude, understanding, mindset, and we are indeed good friends. We are very transparent, honest, sincere with each other. And that is what is called the magic of friendship, where two people, are able to be very, very comfortable with each other. Like St. Francis and St. Clare, and many, many other good people whose relationships have been exemplary. And once we have evaluated, and if the outcome had been positive, then there is a certain excitement within us. Yes, my relationship is good with this person, and therefore I want to continue this relationship. And because we want to continue this relationship, we sort of persevere in the relationship. And part of perseverance in relationship is not that we have to talk to the other person every day, but it is a firm conviction that we are good friends. And we may talk to each other maybe once in 3 months, once in 6 months. We may greet the other person on special or important days. But we know that we are good friends, and our friendship continues because there is perseverance in our friendship. And the next stage, it is not really a stage, but it is the 10 virtues. There are, in fact, 20 important virtues for relationship. And 10 of those virtues we must memorize. Because why we have to memorize? Because these 10 important virtues are for evaluating how we have entered into a relationship. What is the type of relationship that we have with the other person? And that is why these 10 important virtues are vitally important for our life. And the first important virtue is trust. And trust is known as the foundational virtue, Bunyadi Mulya. And it is a foundation on which every relationship is built, whether it is marriage, whether it is a relationship between parents and children, whether it is brothers and sisters, teachers and students, or religious, any type of relationship. The foundation is trust. If there is no trust, then everything else collapses because there is no foundation. And the second important virtue is the bonding virtue, love. Love is the one which brings two people together. And the love is the one which helps them to unite. And love can be up and down. There can be an intense experience of love. There can also be love which can be broken. There are so many different types of love, but I do not want to dwell on the different types of love, but I only want to share that love is a very, very strong personal experience of emotion. And this personal experience of emotion emotionally draws the person towards the other. And this love is joining of the thinking faculty and the emotional faculty. The knowing faculty and the feeling faculty are united, and having united into one, moving towards the other to build up a bond, a strong relationship. So love is based on both mind and also feeling. I want to share one story. One of my close friends, schoolmates, he wanted me to bless his marriage. So I reached 3 days before his marriage and went to his house and asked him, "How is the girl? Have you met her? Did you talk to her?" And he said he had talked to her in the phone. He has not met her in person. I was sort of surprised, a little shocked. Anyway, 2 days later, I blessed his marriage. Then I left for the parish where I was assistant. After 1 year, I went home for holiday. 1.5 years later, I went home for holidays. And I went to his house and I met him. And I asked him, "How are you keeping?" And he was very happy. And I asked him, uh, "You never met the girl before the marriage? And what is it that made you to be very happy?" He said, "After the mass was over, as they were coming out, as they entered the entrance of the church, that is the first time he actually saw the face of the girl, the complete face of the girl. And having seen the face of the girl, he had made a decision. And the decision was, this is the girl I have to live with for the rest of my life. I will completely trust her, completely love her." And that decision to trust her and to love her was 100%. It was done with 100% certitude. And that is why he said he is very, very happy. So trust, love, very important. And the third important virtue which should help us to evaluate is respect, which is known as a mutual virtue. And respect must be experienced and expressed mutually. Both the man and the woman, they must respect each other. It must be a physical respect. You respect the physical person. You respect the emotion of the other. You respect the different thinking of the person. You respect the social diversity, difference of that person. And also, you respect the family of your friend. And respect is the third important virtue that we must, which would help us to evaluate our relationship. And the fourth virtue is honesty. And honesty is an expected virtue, that in every relationship, people must be honest with each other. If they are not honest with each other, then it will be one of hide and seek. Another virtue is to constantly ask a question with regard to security, which is a comforting virtue, makes you very comfortable. Am I secure? Am I comfortable in the company of the other? And as long as you feel comfortable, confident, relaxed, is a sign and indication your relationship is a good relationship. Another important virtue is to experience a sense of belonging. And sense of belonging is an experiential virtue. One must experience deep within oneself that I belong to that person. And there is a significant difference between belonging and possessing. We can belong to people. We can belong to so many people organizations, institutions, but nobody can possess us. Only the parents can possess the children. Children feel they possess the parents. Husband can feel that he possesses the wife. The wife can feel that she possesses the husband. In all the other relationships, we belong to, we don't possess. In friendship, we must experience the belonging to the other, an intense experience of belonging to the other. And the next important virtue is communication. And the communication is a virtue of intimacy. Depending on the level of communication, we can say how close you are with the other person. A time would come when a person begins to share everything with you, totally transparent, because the person has a deep intimacy in one's relationship with you. If a person is very shallow or afraid to share, afraid to be close to, that is because there is a lack of communication between both of you. And the next important virtue is commitment. Commitment to each other is the one which would sustain the relationship. In marriage, if a marriage has to be sustained, there must be commitment. The promise which they make before God, before the priest, before the parents and others, is a promise, is the one which would sustain the relationship. So commitment to each other to carry on the relationship. And in every relationship, I believe that which would help them to renew the relationship is a sense of humor, a little bit of joke, laughter, fun would help them to renew the relationship. And the last important virtue is the virtue of forgiveness. And forgiveness is a divine virtue or a noble virtue. And all these 10 important virtues, we would realize three things together: trust, love, respect. Then you come across honesty, security, belonging. Then you come to communication, commitment. And lastly, humor and forgiveness. And when you look at all these 10 virtues, you realize they are interconnected. One is connected to the other. They are interdependent. One is dependent on the other. They are interrelated as well as they are intersupportive. So, my dear brothers, I would like you to reflect on the first three stages, as I have shared with you: the pre-relationship stage, the initial relationship stage, and the 10 important virtues. And I always consider the 10 important virtues are the ways and means we can really and actually share and help and guide people, particularly people who come to us for counseling, for advice, married people who are preparing for marriage, seminarians, and anyone who is going through difficulties with relationships. These are the 10 virtues. It will help us. Using these 10 virtues, we can also help others. The second part of this, I will speak in the next talk. God bless you.